This week on the Unqualified Gamers.
Welcome to the Unqualified Gamers Podcast.
Episode 93, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm about to say, don't you dare say welcome.
I didn't say welcome.
All right, you didn't say welcome.
We have a guest, the voice of multiplayer in Halo, the God voice of Halo multiplayer, Jeff Steitzer, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Super excited to have you on.
Everybody,
Hello.
if you don't know him, I think you
which
do
one
know
it
without
is,
realizing it. Yeah.
If you don't know him, if you think you don't know who this guy is, you do, because this guy was a piece of all of our lives, humongous piece of our lives.
I'll take care of this for you. Spectacular.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
is
who
awesome.
he is.
Yeah. I think pretty much Jeff is our childhood.
Right. Yeah.
If I were to describe my childhood, it would definitely be Jeff. Absolutely. There's
no
no way.
So one of the members of the Unqualified Gamers podcast saw you last weekend. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
Yeah,
Weekend before.
Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, I was at Torg.
He was there. Yeah.
I was at Torg. I did not. The lines for you guys were like, especially once the panels started, they were just insane.
Right.
And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it go. I did play some COD, but I was more of a PC gamer, and I also still like going outside and touching grass.
I didn't.
So I wasn't like these other two.
I played Halo. That's
But,
what I did.
man. So many
that's
LAN
all
parties.
they did was play Halo.
Yeah.
But I did.
Did you come to the panel?
Yes, I did. I came over there. I watched you guys. They added an extra 9 rows of seats so that you guys could fit everyone that wanted to be there. Cece
Cool.
actually said that I should go up and talk to you and see if I could get you on the podcast, because if I could, he would tattoo my logo on his butt.
I did. And he
It's
didn't.
this thing over my shoulder right here.
He didn't do it. He didn't do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna email the guy. I'm gonna see if he'll come on, and then I'll get him on without having to get my ass tattooed. So.
Indeed.
And it works.
That's quite an inducement, I have to say. I've never heard of anybody going to that kind of a length, and it's not that hard to get them to a podcast. I have to say.
You enjoy doing
I love to
podcasts?
do them.
You do? Good. You enjoy doing podcasts then?
Yeah. Oh, here's what it really boils down to is that, and maybe you could sort of tell Zeus at the gaming expo, but we meet so many people there, and this is the sort of big secret about the game, is that I didn't know we had fans until about the third one, because we'd all go in and we would do our work, which was mostly voice recording, although Jen was doing her own motion capture, but I'm not sure when that started. And obviously I didn't have any motion capture. I just had to go in and do the voice. And so you'd go in and you'd spend, however long it took. As we went along, it seemed to take less and less time. At the end of it, you'd go through, there'd be a little sequence where they'd start, asking you to record stuff as jokes for all their friends. And it's like, all right, I'll do that. And then I would leave and they go, that's it. I'd go, thanks. And it would be 4 years before the next one rolled around or something like that.
Yeah.
And so nobody was calling me and saying, hey, congratulations, we just sold $170 million worth of product in one day in this country alone. I had to read that in the New York Times.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know.
Wow.
And of course,
What a way to find out.
obviously, nobody knew what I looked like. So I was able to sort of pass unmolested through the world. And actually, once people did start to find out, and I started to go to conventions and do cameos and assign things through my online store, but now I get closer to the fans, like I did at the Torg thing. I love it. It's
How often do you do those conventions and stuff like that?
Only a couple of times a year. I do them more often, but it's kind of a case of I've got to be requested. And as it was explained to me by one of our agents, sorry, I'm grabbing my coffee now.
Oh, you're good.
Generally, for a lot of the conventions that may be a little bit smaller, the attitude is like, if we can get Steve Downs, we're good. It's Master Chief.
Right.
And a lot of folks don't actually understand, by my title, who I am. It's kind of like, until they hear me
Until they hear
and then
you
it's kinda
talk, yeah.
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 Obviously, Master Chief, they may not recognize Steve. They
Yeah.
know who Master Chief is, and the same with Jen, who is Cortana. Even
Mhm.
some of the others. This at Torg, we were joined by Tin Dabo, who is Guilty Spark, and again, because he's a character, even though you could pass him on the street, you know who his character is.
Right.
So that's kind of the way it is. As I've told the folks at CelebWorks, who are my agents for personal appearances, like, you can send me out every weekend if you want to. I'm ready to go. I love it. Plus, I get to go, new places.
When you did your first one, how nervous were you?
Okay, we're good. I wasn't nervous at all. But again, you've got to remember,
No?
I've been an actor for almost 50 years.
So how'd
So
you
have you
get
done,
into
like,
voice
a-
acting?
Yeah.
Huh?
Were you in Broadway or anything like that, or did you start off in like LA?
Yeah, I was in Broadway. I was on Broadway in 2 shows. I started out. I'll give you a quick rundown of my career, as quick as I can. I tend to, bloviate a bit. I started out in 1975. Another century. I drove from the Midwest, where I'd gone to college, all the way out in Iowa, and I drove all the way out to Seattle because a friend was there and said, "Come visit." And I thought, "Oh, okay." Thinking it's just going to be a visit because I'm headed for Minneapolis, where I'd gone to college for 2 years and I had friends. That's what I
Yeah.
thought I'd do. And it was a big
Mhm.
theater town, so I thought perfect place. I didn't know Seattle except from having visited it once the year before for like a week, or even not even that long. So I drove out to Seattle, and before I left, my friend called and said, "There's a theater company out here. It's an experimental company looking for new members. Would you like me to set up an audition for you?" And I went, "Oh, sure." I was just thinking I'd be on vacation, but I thought, well, I'm going to have to do it sooner or later. I went out, I auditioned for the artistic director, who then had me come back for the ensemble because it was company theater.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was decided by ensemble. Not the easiest way to work, but it was still kind of cool. And we did incredible things, and they asked me to join. That's where I got started. There were people who came and saw us in the shows that we did who were producers for commercials, and we started getting asked to do commercials, and I started doing quite a few of them. I began my voiceover career. Years passed. I was running a theater in Seattle because I also direct. I've directed 180 professional productions over the years at theaters all
wow.
over the country.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'd been called in for a TV movie, and I went in. I didn't get it, but after I'd done my callback, casting director, who I knew, said, "Do you have representation?" I said, "No." So I'm thinking about getting it. And she said, "Well, who are you thinking about?" And I told her an agent in town who my ex-wife had been with, and she said, "I'm sure that they would be happy to have you, but there's a new boutique agency opening up, and you might want to think about that." And I thought, sure, yeah, I'll think about that. And of course, immediately thought, in a couple of months, I'll think about it more seriously. The next morning at 9 a.m., I'm like lying in bed, still in bed, and I get a phone call, and it's the woman who would become my agent, asking if I wanted her to represent me, and it was like, that was easy, sure. So then I had it. Actually, we hadn't even met yet, and she sent me out that afternoon to audition for an episode of Northern Exposure, that series that shot in the Seattle area. But then I was with her, until she retired.
Yeah.
And one day I got a call from her, and because I'd done stuff at Microsoft before, and I'd done some video games, not a lot, just a few. She said,
Okay.
"You've got an audition out at Microsoft for a new game." And I said, "Well, what's it called?" And she said, "I think it's called Halo." And it's like, okay, sure, I'll go out there and do that. So
Yeah.
I drove out.
It's an angelic game.
You always audition. You never say no, for heaven's sake.
Right.
So I went on out, and I, like everybody else in Seattle, as it turns out, I found out later from Marty O'Donnell, he'd been in Chicago, and Chicago has an amazing theater scene, so he had plenty of people to choose from when he was doing the video games he worked on there. When he got to Seattle, he thought, "I want to do the same thing because I hear Seattle's a good theater town," which was true. So everybody I knew in the voice industry and other actors were being called, and we all read the same thing. We read a bit of Master Chief. We read a bit of, it might have been The Arbiter because it was an alien.
Mhm.
And then we had to scream like we were being killed. And then the girls all had to read Cortana and scream like they were being killed.
That's
All
awesome.
I know, my screaming is in that first game. It could be.
It could be.
Could be.
I don't
It
know,
could
but
be.
It might be.
I know what is
So
in
the
that
first-
first game and all the rest of them, and it's the voice.
It's
The-
hysterical.
oh my god, love it! I
So
love
when,
it. Where'd you
so
go to
when you were
school in
talking
Iowa?
about doing,
Sorry, Zeus.
Air,
Yeah, in Iowa.
University of Northern Iowa.
In Waterloo or Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Cedar Falls. Cedar Falls.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
That's about 40-minute drive from me. I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
I was raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
No way.
Yes,
Look at
I
that.
was. My dad, I don't know if you'd even remember this because he hasn't been there in quite some time. He had a dealership called Steitzer Lincoln Mercury. He was the first person to go out to Collins Road, where
Yeah.
all the dealerships are now.
Yep.
Been downtown, took over the dealership, which was on 3rd, and whatever it was, 8th or something.
Yeah.
It had failed previously twice. Took
Okay.
it over, made it a huge success, made it a major dealership. He decided at a certain point, because they had no room downtown, it's a teeny little space where they had all their cars. That's where he started. He moved out to Collins Road. They built a dealership out there,
Yeah.
and he was there until he retired. And then I think somebody took it over, and then just recently, like within the last couple of years, they tore it all down.
Oh,
And
really?
built something. Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe
Maybe
you're
you guys
from.
grew up in the same neighborhood. Cece, you're like part
It could
announcer.
happen. Dude, I know.
Maybe
I
that's
know.
why you start off the podcast, because you picked
could
up some
be.
of Jeff's leftover
It,
like
c-
his
it
past.
could be. I might have picked up some of Jeff's juju.
What high school did you go to?
I didn't go to high school in Cedar Rapids. I'm actually from a small town north of Cedar Rapids called Central City. So,
Okay, I know
but
where that is.
yeah, so that's where I'm from. My girlfriend went to school in Marion, which is the neighboring town to Cedar Rapids.
The Maid Right store, absolutely.
It's still there. Well, it left for a while and then came back, but it's there again.
Is Ole's Ham and Eggers still there?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Or anybody who wasn't specifically raised in Iowa. It's down
Yeah.
by the tracks in Marion, and we used to go there in high school, late at night after shows in the high school.
Yeah.
We're at Washington. And we'd go out there and we would close the place down. We'd order like plates of French fries
Yeah.
and and sit and just laugh. And
I'll have to see if it's still open. Yeah,
That's some of the best times.
was Zoe's Pizza in Marion there?
I don't remember, it could have
No,
been.
Okay. That's an old.
I will say,
The first movie
just like
theater
with the fries.
What?
Oh, I was about to say, just like with the fries. That's what we used to do with like pizza parties in Halo. So
Right.
we'd do the same thing, but we just had Halo involved.
Right.
Yeah, well, we didn't have that option. You know, this is one of the weird things about being as old as I am, and I'm pretty old, is that when I was growing up, we didn't have any video games. We didn't have a lot of stuff. My kids couldn't believe it. You know, it's like, what? What do you mean you didn't have video games? Or DVDs, or
Right.
VHS,
Mhm.
or any of that stuff. You know, we didn't have any of that kind of activity to enjoy. So
Right.
watching that all happen is kind of mind-blowing for me. And I got to sort of enjoy it vicariously because both my kids played video games. You know, as an actor, you don't make that much money, certainly not in Seattle, Washington,
Right.
doing stage work primarily. But somehow or other, I managed to, find the money to get them Nintendo and a PlayStation, I think were the two we had.
Yeah.
One I did not have was an
What's the Xbox? Of course.
Didn't have an Xbox.
And that's when you couldn't even play the game.
And that was what was ironic, was because whenever we'd finish a game, they would send me a copy of the game, and it was like, It's like, well, are you going to give me an Xbox? To which the answer was always, no.
No.
It's like,
We only sold 17 million. You think we can do that?
I gave it to my son, thinking, well, he can go play it at some friend's Xbox. And unbeknownst to me, although he admitted it later, he was selling them. He was
Oh
selling
no!
them.
So
These are
Wow.
so your kids didn't even play Halo then?
not much, a little bit.
A little bit, okay.
Which now is why we all know that he didn't know it was a successful game until the third game.
Well, I'm not the only one. Steve Downs didn't either.
Really?
Oh yeah, this is a great story. I love telling it. It's Steve's story. I should let him tell it. But Too
I
good to
mean,
pass
get him
up.
on here. He can
Get
tell
Steve on the
for us.
call. Get him on.
And he would, and then as you tell it, there's no response. As he tells it, and he'll go, "What the hell's going on here?" It's like, "Stay." I told it first. What happened was he was home one day, and his son came up and he said, because he had friends down there were playing this game, didn't know what it was. He said, "Dad, are you Master Chief in this game, Halo?" And Steve went, "No, I think I am. I think that's the game I did from already. Yeah, I think maybe I am." Next thing you knew, like every kid in the neighborhood was at their door.
Oh, I
At the
bet.
college.
Wow.
They all were just agog. That's when Steve went, "Oh, this is something."
Right.
Oh, we didn't know.
Right. That's crazy. It's like
That's crazy to think about.
I remember when Halo came out. It was in development for a long time. And everybody was talking about it. All my friends were talking about it. I had a PlayStation. I didn't have an Xbox. I remember going over to my friend's house, and two friends had brought their Xboxes over. So we had two Xboxes, two TVs, and I'm like, well, this game is. I mean, I'm sure it's great, but it's not that great. We were playing all kinds of stuff at the time, and we get into playing Halo, and we played for like 30 hours straight. It was just insane. And so obviously, every time you get a double kill or a triple kill, anything, you hear your voice. So yeah, it's just wonderful.
Just hysterical. And it's so funny because I remember it must have been, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was 2, but it might have been 3. When did infection happen? That all popped up. The
I
zombies.
think that was 3, right?
Well, I guess 3 was the actual game mode, but 2 is like the flood and people started playing infection.
Yeah, but infection was game mode, multiplayer game.
In 3, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because I was recording one of the games. It might have been 2. And I'm going down a list of lines. It's like red team, go, blue team, go, yellow team, go. I don't even know if all those teams ended up staying in the game, but I recorded for like 12 teams.
Yeah.
And then I get to this bunch of lines, and it's like zombie killing spree. I went, wait a minute, excuse me. The folks on the other side of the plate glass from where I was recording, it's like, I said, are there zombies in this game? And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, do you want to tell me about it? And they were like, no. So it's like, it's fine with me. I just kept saying, it's like, brains. I don't care. I don't
Love
need
it.
to know.
Yeah.
I was above my pay grade. I did, it was on a need to know basis.
Right.
It was in development. We're always signing NDAs,
Yeah.
Hysterical.
That's great. That's so great.
I did not know.
So, what other games have you done? Have you done any other games?
GTA.
GTA.
Well,
Yes, indeed.
Started off with some games, you said.
I did indeed. The first game I think I did was something called The Russian Front. It wasn't really a game, but it was a video game. It was a Microsoft thing.
Okay.
It was all about World War II, and it was about I don't know if you fought or anything. I just did lines. I think I was narrating it, maybe. I think so. Then I did Motor City Madness, Midtown Motor Madness, something like that for Microsoft, which was kind of a car race game.
Okay.
Then I did a bunch of games for a company in Seattle called Humongous. It included Pajama Sam, Putt Putt, Freddy Fish. A lot of kids grew up with those games.
Okay.
And then
I think I played one or two of them.
Oh wait, and then I can't remember the sequence of this, but I did an Aliens versus Predator 2. I did a game called No One Lives Forever 1 and 2. I did, and then I think it was around time for Halo. I did Halo. Then I was in New York, and I just got offered a Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
And what I did was, how you guys play that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Vice City Stories.
Okay.
Okay.
One.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, apparently, when you're driving around and wreaking havoc on everything, you can listen to the radio.
Yes.
All these stations. One of the stations is an old-time radio station.
Okay.
So I went in to record an old-time radio thriller episode where I played a police chief, and I played sort of a fisherman. That's
great.
And it was so much fun, and we did it just as if we were doing it for real. In other words, we were all in the same room. We all had our own microphones. We all had pieces of paper you'd drop on the floor when you got to the end of it. And we just did it through twice. They were like, thanks. And that was my experience with that.
That's awesome.
I got to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I did record for Plants vs. Zombies.
Mhm.
Yep, that's
But
another
I-
good game.
I think it was like the third one that I don't think ever came out. Or if it did, I don't think it came out with me.
I didn't
Okay.
know there was voice lines in that game.
Yeah, he's like,
They weren't
brains.
Wait,
I mean, I
were you
didn't
one
have
of the? Were you one of the zombies? Just brains?
No, I was. I was this guy that just was in a big vehicle and.
I don't know. You might have been in it. You might have heard that line.
Yeah, it could very well be. It's one of my favorite lines to say.
Of all the lines that he's had in his entire career, the zombie line.
I know, but it was weird because I went in. It was the pandemic was still on, and as it was when we started recording Halo Infinite, and that was right before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Literally a week after we were in recording, first cases were announced in the Seattle area, which were among the first that were recognized in anywhere in the country.
Right.
Nursing. You drove past the nursing home. Of course, not knowing, can you get sick from driving past it, or
Right.
Close all your vents.
You didn't
Don't
know.
let the
You
air
didn't
in.
know. We all
late,
actually
I didn't find out.
Yes.
we all actually
late.
became friends during the pandemic. Like none of us knew each other until the pandemic.
Okay,
'cause
friends is a strong word. I would not.
we became acquaintances that put up with each
Acquaintances
other.
is a strong word. I would.
Yes.
Kai lives in Florida, and
I do now.
Zeus-
I started off in Michigan, but now I'm in
he-
Florida.
and
Yeah.
Zeus started out in California and now is in Ohio. So we've all
Okay,
just
we
became
probably
friends
all
through
have
this.
been at the same. Where in Michigan, Kai?
Lansing. I think I grew up in Lansing.
Okay, because I directed for the Hope Summer Theater in wherever that is, Blueberry Country. I remember that. It was really nice. It was on a college campus. Summer Repertory Theater. That's what it was called. A friend of mine was running it. And then California, where were you?
I lived
Compton?
in Ventura for a lot of my life, and then I spent 8 years out in the ghettos of Compton, Linwood, Southgate. South Central.
Okay. Well, I was born in South Dakota in Deadwood.
Okay.
After 6 months, we moved to Sioux Falls, and then we moved out to San Diego, California, where I was raised in La Mesa, and went to elementary school. And then at a certain point, my dad got a chance to sell cars in the Midwest. That's why we moved. That's how I ended up in Cedar Rapids. Went to school at the
crazy.
University of Minnesota for 2 years. Came back, finished my college at the University of Northern Iowa because I've been doing just about everything in Minneapolis except going to school.
Right.
Not proud of it, but it was an exciting time.
Hey, we got a party sometimes, right?
Exactly. And it was, I've always said it was a really good thing because it really kept me off the streets and out of harm's way for a few more years because I was way too young. But there it is.
So what states have you not lived in then?
Plenty. Most of the states down south, and I don't miss it, quite frankly.
Oh, so literally you've just happened to have lived in the 3 states that we're from?
That's awesome.
Go us.
Michigan was a visit. That was just a visit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't
okay.
really-
it's kind of a visit state. It's not really a stay for long stay. Understandable.
It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. Such a beautiful summer. I had not, living in Seattle, I hadn't seen fireflies in years.
Oh yeah.
And in the summer, which is when I was there, one night I was walking home and it was like, oh man, fireflies everywhere.
Everywhere. They're insane. Like down here, we get 1 or 2. Like I see them here and there. But up in Michigan, it's like the entire yard. We used to catch them in a jar, put holes in the jar.
Yeah,
they did the same thing in Rapids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're here.
My girlfriend had never seen them before until we
Really?
moved out to Ohio.
Isn't that a
we
crazy
lived
experience?
Yeah, and I think the first time I saw them was in Fort Benning, Georgia, and we had our night vision on, and seeing fireflies. I mean, Kai, you probably understand that. I don't know. Did you have that? So you see fireflies with night vision on. All of a sudden, it looks like little IR tags going off randomly all around you.
Yeah.
And so
The weirdest
when you're
thing,
doing
they blink on and they blink off, and it's like, what is this?
But when you're doing night ops, it honestly looks like the enemy is just out there around you somewhere. Because you see these little bright flashes off in the distance.
You're like, what the hell?
Right.
That's great. That's great.
Amazing.
So
No, I
Shooting out
haven't
of
lived
Fairfield.
everywhere. I've lived a lot of places. I've worked a lot of places. So I lived in New York for 6.5 years. That's when I was on Broadway. I did Inherit the Wind at the Lyceum Theater with Christopher Plummer, who was Captain Von Trapp. He's the old guy in Knives Out. That's how
Okay.
he's going to
Okay, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
that dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian Dennehy, who was an old Russian in The Blacklist, is this big. And they also did Pixar things. It was hysterical because Chris is the voice of the bad guy in Up.
Okay.
Who's the old
Yep.
actor kind of character. And Brian plays the father of the rat, wannabe chef in Ratatouille. And
That's sweet.
how I found out about that was we were sitting, before the show, we were sitting off stage. And we would kind of chat and stuff. He was in the mood for it, and he generally was. He liked it. Mostly he was grousing because he's like, God, I'm so tired, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know, but he was fabulous. And one day he said, I was off recording for some movie about a rat. Wants to be a chef. He's in a kitchen. It's like, who the hell's going to want to go see that?
Another big
and
movie.
It's a massive, massive
it's
movie.
Big,
Oh,
yeah.
he was always wrong. He was always wrong. He was going, they're doing this reading of some new movie with Pacino and De Niro, and I can't get in. Nobody will consider me. Well, then he ends up doing the movie. It's kind of like, are you happy? Are you happy?
Right.
Are you happy now?
He told great stories. Like, he's in Cocoon, the Ron Howard film, one of the early Ron Howard films. He plays the alien. And he's going, Ron, what the fuck? He said, I mean, if you were an alien and you were coming to Earth, wouldn't you want to look like Robert Redford? Why would you want to look like me? Because he was a big, stocky guy. And Ron Howard's response was just like, no, he wants to stay under the radar and look normal. Brian didn't take that amiss.
Golden.
So that was okay.
That's great.
Then
That's
after
great.
I did that show, I did a year and a half in Mary Poppins on Broadway. And then around that, I was like, I did some film and TV stuff. I'm a blip in a 30 Rock episode.
Cool.
Were running along, and they could cut me, and they did. I don't think I have any lines left. I used to.
Yeah.
And it's an episode where Don Geiss, guy played by Rip Torn.
Mm-hmm.
He's also in Men in Black.
Yep.
He's the guy in charge of Men in Black. Dies in the 30 Rock series, and there's a scene where they're at a church. I think Kenneth is playing the organ, and his daughter, who's played by an old friend of mine from Seattle, is there. We're going to have her sing, and then they decided they couldn't because she never spoke. She was weird. She was always she always had cars in her mouth and stuff. Really strange child.
Right.
And then they had Don Geiss had been chosen like Han Solo.
Right.
In The Empire Strikes Back. So he's standing there, and I'm playing a priest at the service who's basically had a word or two and applauding and stuff. And literally, if you've got a wide enough screen, you might catch me over on the side.
Oh, on the side, yeah.
But it was a day of shooting. It was great. Lots and lots of fun. And I got to end up at one point, I spent about a half hour talking to Alec Baldwin, and we started realizing we actually knew people in common, actors and things. And
right.
He said, awesome. I love Joe. Do you like Joe Orton, a playwright? And it was like, yeah. He said, we should do What the Butler Saw. And I'm thinking, do I give him my phone number now?
Right.
Never came to anything at all, but it would have been fun. Yeah, I mean, it was typical.
Who was like the main, like if you had all the actors that you'd ever met, who was probably like the one that you probably never thought you would actually get to interact with and got to interact with?
Well, there are lots of them. Actually, Fred Molina, who is, Dr. Octopus in the Marvel movies, got. Ewan Morton, who was a Broadway person, but a lot of Broadway people. Gosh, I don't know. I actually taught a number of people. I knew them as kids. Kyle MacLachlan was in the original Dune movie. Was a student of mine.
Wow.
Actually. A guy named Richard Karn. If you ever watched Home Improvement, he was Al the Tool Time guy.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The guy that kind of stood there with a beard and stuff.
Yeah. Flannel.
Always told Timmy it was wrong. Yeah.
Flannel.
Nah, I
Yeah.
don't think so, Tim.
I don't think that's
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Man, you've kind of branched all over, huh? Video games, Broadway.
I taught for a while. Another
Mm-hmm.
person I taught was Michael Emerson. I directed him in a show. Michael Emerson was in Evil. He was also in Lost. He was Benjamin, the weird guy that showed up in the second season, who was sort of, I think we're meant to think, the major, nemesis of the whole series.
Yeah. Yep.
Person of interest. He was in that series. He's in Saw.
Oh, right
Oh,
on.
yeah.
He's like in some Flash. He's a little mousy guy. Yeah.
So
I
okay.
think
So where did
It's
where
great-
did you
it's-
teach at? Because I
University of Washington has a professional actor training program. That's where I met Kyle and Rick, and I also knew Brendan Fraser because he trained in Seattle.
Wow.
And Michael Emerson was at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. They had a school attached to it, and he ended up being in a show I directed down there. And I got to know him a little bit. Just a great guy.
I think it's gonna be crazy that people like. Obviously, we all know you from Halo. Like that's
Yeah.
as soon as we hear your voice, we know Halo
Yeah.
announcer instantly. But now a lot of people are gonna be able to like. They're gonna hear these different things that you've played in. They're gonna be able to go back and be like, holy crap! Like not only was he my childhood in this video game, but now I'm seeing him and hearing him in this video game, this movie, this TV show. Like it's
There were
gonna
a
be
bunch
awesome.
of different. I did a bunch of different things. It was a lot of fun, I have to say. Haven't done as many movies or as much TV. Well, there was a reboot of The Fugitive with Tim Daly and Michael T. Williamson. Michael T. Williamson was Bubba Gump in Forrest Gump.
Okay. Yeah.
Actor. He's popped up in a bunch of things. He was in Justified for a couple of seasons. He was the head of this black community, and he wielded a big butcher cleaver, very dramatically at one point. Took care of a villain in the series that way. That was incredible. That was very, very cool working on that series. I mean,
Pretty good series.
this is the thing. This is the thing about most careers. I mean, we tend to hear about the big stars, the ones that show up on network television talk shows, or
Yeah.
they're
For
out
sure.
walking the red carpet, and that's a fairly small percentage
Yeah.
of the people who work in the profession and who still manage to kind of keep going. And I've been doing this. Next year will be my 50th year as a professional actor.
That's awesome. That's a
That's
long time.
So
so
fun.
then so I mean you understand what we think your biggest role is, and that is the whole Halo thing, right? But what do you feel your biggest I don't want to say accomplishment, because I mean your entire career is an accomplishment, but when you think of those like big moments, what was your big moment?
There were a number of shows that I directed that were very important to me. They're completely obscure. Very few people, by comparison, saw them. There was a play about a group of monks and then a bunch of other people in the Middle Ages who, during a plague, decide to start a theater of comedians to entertain people in their despair, which is fine as long as the plague is raging. But once the plague is over, then the church and the powerful forces decide that they can no longer have them going around and sort of undercutting the established, groups that are really running everything. It's called Red Noses. I did the American premiere in Chicago. Then I did it in Seattle. Had a cast both times of about, I think the two productions were a little bit different, anywhere between 23 to 30 people, something like that. Huge casts, big epics, long show. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Now, is there anywhere we could actually watch that right now? Like if we were to look it up?
Oh, yes, actually, yes, but not online. The only way you can see it is it's part of the library system in New York City. Do you know what Lincoln Center is? Where that would be?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, at Lincoln Center, round the corner from the Vivian Beaumont Theater, where the Lincoln Center Theater is, and it's between Lincoln Center Theater and the Metropolitan Opera. Go back. There's a library. There's a branch of the library. It's the Library of the Performing Arts.
Okay.
One of the things they have is a theater on film and tape collection, and primarily it's of Broadway shows. You're supposed to have a reason to want to see it, but they don't check it real. They don't
Yeah.
sue it. I've gone in there and I just wanted to see things, and I said, "Yeah, I'm considering directing this, so I will take a look at it." And it's like, all right, fine.
And they let you just let you look at
the
it.
library card.
That's awesome.
But you can see the original production of Red Noses that I did at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. It's the only one of my shows that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also represented because they did videos of Inherit the Wind, which I was an original part of. I came into Mary Poppins a year and a half after it opened. They had not done the video yet. So they did the video when I was there.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in that as well. If you were to go online and check out Mary Poppins, oh God, what is it? They're like instructional videos, right?
Yeah.
And there's a series of like 8. They're hosted by an actor we just lost, an amazing performer named Gavin Creel. So sad. Like passed
instantly unknown.
suddenly, and everybody was just totally flipped out. He's the host of it, and then each episode there are bits of scenes from the stage productions, the Broadway production,
Right.
the tour production, and both Broadway productions. The one that I joined, which had almost the entire original cast, and then they turned over a bunch of the leads while I was in the show, and a lot of those folks are in it. But there are a number of times when you see me very clearly as the bank chairman in the show and as Admiral Boom. Tiny roles, completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
I've never been paid more money. I love the
good
company.
deal.
I love the staff. It was outrageous experience. Hardly working. It was so insane.
That's awesome.
That was pretty sweet. But
With
no,
your
I mean,
back-
as far
Go
as
ahead.
like the stuff that there are any number of shows that I have done that I have been very, very happy about. It's very rare, but that's only because it's hard to do, I think, what we do and do it to one's satisfaction if you
Yeah.
have.
Mhm.
See, the problem is
The
I
true
grew up at a
passion
time
for
where
it.
huge passion. I had a chance to see an awful lot of work. So, I was able to see shows directed by a show directed by one of the great theater directors of the 20th century, a man named Tyrone Guthrie, whose name was given to the theater that he helped found in Minneapolis, the Guthrie Theater.
Guthrie Theater, yeah.
And I got to see one of his shows,
That's cool.
and it was incredible. And, I saw Nicholas Nickleby, which was 2 parts, and it was 8.5 hours long, I think.
Mhm.
You saw it all in one day, or at least I did. The Royal
8
Shakespeare
hours is a
Company,
lot.
unbelievable. I saw an incredible 2-person show from Market Theater at Johannesburg. So I'm seeing work of this caliber, and you're going, okay, we got to be a lot better if we're going to be at that level.
Right.
And that's the way it felt. And
Yeah.
so that's what we tried to do, and both as an actor and director and teaching and stuff. But I'm very, very, not resigned, but happy to realize that to the extent that I'm remembered at all when I'm gone, it will be for Halo.
Oh
Just
yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
Halo
Yeah.
is just it's I don't know how many times I've repeated the lines. So I don't know if you know right now Halo Infinite has they had
Halo
like
2.
a Halo 2
Yeah.
basically. Halo 2 was brought into Halo Infinite right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I've been playing it like
I
crazy.
say, need to know, I guess. They didn't tell me.
I've been playing it like crazy, so I'll be like double kill, triple kill, overkill. I keep getting overkills, and I'm saying it, and my girlfriend's like, you don't have to repeat it every time you do it. I'm like, you do.
Yes, I do.
Yes,
You
yes,
do.
I
You have to.
You have
It's a
to.
requirement.
Um,
It's not a real it's not a real overkill unless
Thank
you
you.
repeat the line.
Thank you, Zeus. Thank you. So I know you you have a website. We're gonna put your website. We're gonna put your Cameo. We're gonna link those in the description of the show.
Oh, great.
I'm gonna buy something from your website. There's a lot of cool Halo stuff on there. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna get yet, but have you had any crazy requests on Cameo?
Oh well,
Oh my God, why would you do this to the man?
Here's the thing: is that a lot of people. This is going to make sense to you, I suspect.
Yeah.
Know what it's like when you get a bunch of your buddies together,
Mm-hmm.
and you are all just as disgusting and foul as you can possibly.
That's how we three get along so well.
I would never.
No,
do
that's
that.
just CC.
That's just it's just me. It's just me.
We are not friends. We're not acquaintances.
Anyway, what happens is sometimes I'll be asked to say things that are so. It's like, no, I can't say that word. I can't voice that sentiment. It's just like, why would you even ask me to say that? You know, it's like, I can't do that.
But the part of it is, though, if you did do that, they would love it.
Well, I don't doubt it one bit. But the other thing they would do is immediately
put it online, right?
For all the world to see.
Yes.
And the last thing that I intend to do is anything that's going to embarrass the people who gave me the opportunity to do the game.
Right.
You know?
100% agree. I was just saying, I'm not saying do it.
This man, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know
listen to Jeff.
I don't know what you guys
This
are talking
is probably
about.
the most important thing he's going to say to you all night.
So, what are some of your favorite lines from Halo? What is your
I always
favorite?
I always say I've got two.
Okay.
One was in the game. One did not make it into the game. One that made it into the game was unfreaking believable.
Love it.
That's one of my favorites, mostly because it's a long line and there are two Ks in it. And Ks are funny, and so it makes me chuckle when I say it.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable.
I love your voice so much.
With it. The other, and I love telling this story, although it's hysterical, was something we recorded. I went in one day to record for one of the games. Can't remember which one. I said, okay, there's this one point now. Here's the line that you're going to record is one that the players will hear if they shoot a member of their own team. Now, how that came about was that years ago, Dick Cheney, then the vice president under Bush,
Yep.
on a hunting trip.
Yep, we all know it well.
Hunter, right? You know the story.
Mm-hmm.
They thought, well, we're going to pay homage to it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to hear it every time. They're not going to hear it every time. It'll only pop up, and I think they were thinking that way nobody up
Just keep killing their own team.
Object. And the line was Cheney Mania.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Was there?
Do it again. It's like Cheney Mania. And then I heard when the game came out, they said it's not in the game. And it's like, what do you mean it's not in the game? In the game.
Were there any that you wanted to add that you never?
Go for it.
Was there any that you wanted to add that never made it in or did?
No. I never improvised or offered a single line in any of the games. That's not how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. This is the thing that I don't think people realize, but it's like the amount of discussion that goes into what lines are going to be in the game, what gets said. It's one of the reasons why Cheney Mania didn't make it in. I think because it broke out of the story, right?
Right.
You're in the middle of playing this game, and suddenly you're reminded of something that happens nowhere near the timeline of the game. It's sort of meta in a weird way,
Makes sense.
Makes you think about that. I think that might have been it. And also they might have just not wanted to get in trouble with people who
too political type of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As you were explaining that whole thing, I was expecting you to say more of like, don't be a dick. The whole Dick Cheney thing as you were coming up with it. And I was like, damn, this is where he's going. He's like, no, nothing where I thought
Cheney
it was.
Mania. Cheney Mania.
No. Couldn't do anything like that. But no, I never offered anything at all. I had lines. And this is the thing about being a voice actor. It's one of the reasons I love it. Is that it's a little bit like being in film and TV. You only have to get it right once.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get it right first time you do it, done, and you move on.
Yeah.
The way I would record is I would go through. all the kill streaks, and I would just go through all the kill streaks. I do 3 takes of each word, phrase, whatever. It'd be like double kill, double kill, double kill, whatever.
Yeah.
And they would choose the one they liked. That's how, and I do it for every line in the game.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It was kind of like, so that's how you'd go through it. And we go through like a sequence like kill streaks. We get to the end and they go, okay, Jeff, go back to 6. Give me 3 more on that. Can you go a little faster? That was the big note I always got. Can you kind of pick it up a little bit? So I would get a little,
That's where you got the voice for the zombie in Plants vs.
Exactly.
Zombies.
See,
Okay,
hey, it
that
all
makes sense.
comes around. It all comes around.
It all comes together. This makes sense.
Indeed. So, that was kind of how that all worked out. And so I never, I didn't offer anything. I was doing what, it's the same, it's interesting. Sometimes you go in to do like a commercial and they're like, play around with it. And it's like, okay, I love that, because right, they're often writing their commercial for them and you don't get any extra money or credit for it, but stuff ends up. You can do that at auditions as well. Sometimes you'll hear the finished commercial that you weren't cast and you went, I did that. That wasn't on the script.
Right. Have you heard anything about the next Halo? Any insider information?
Nothing insider at all, nor has anybody else. I asked both when I was in Columbus. I asked all 3 of the other voice folks who were there. I was like, "Do you guys know anything about this?" And they were like, "Haven't heard a word." Steve said, "I don't believe it." Then Steve tends to come down on that side of things. He's a little bit on the never going to happen, but it's like might.
Yeah, there's been a lot of news about it lately. We typically go over like what's going on in the gaming world. That's kind of what our podcast is. And we're all huge Halo fans, so we all dig into that. We all bite that hook every time it's in front of our face.
Every time. Yeah.
But so there's a new engine, the Unreal 5 engine. I don't know if you know what that is, but they're talking about releasing a Halo game, and we wish that they would like give it back to Bungie and let Bungie do it. Although I do have to, when Halo Infinite first came out, I was not a fan, but they've made it so much like Halo 3 just by updating it to bringing it back to Halo 3. It's such an amazing game, and I think that they're finally listening to the fans and giving us what we want. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
It's interesting because think about it from their from like 343's perspective. So you come in, everybody's very well aware of the big flare up that happened between Microsoft and Bungie.
Yeah.
Which and I don't even know exactly what was involved. My understanding was the sort of straw that broke the whole franchise's back was when Microsoft started saying all sorts of things to Peter Jackson about how they thought he should make the movie of Halo, which he was going to do years ago. And Peter Jackson said, "Yeah, you know what? Never mind." And Bungie folks got a little upset about that, and they may have also been, they may have wanted to move on to something else. I don't know the details. Again, above my pay grade, sad to say. But when they were leaving, so 343 is now in a position where they can come in, and what do? You know what I mean? How do you try to capture the spirit of what's gone before? Just make
it's almost impossible.
Right? I mean, think
Yeah.
about the directors that come in. For instance, Batman, right after the first 2 Tim Burton films, Joel Schumacher. It's not dreadful director. He's got a great little movie called Phone Booth with Colin Farrell. Great fun. He comes in there and he decides he wants to make more like the TV series. It's practically got balloons with pow, bam. It's so more cartoony. Burton's is just it's an individual grotesquerie.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't have anything against 343. I think. I mean, obviously, I love Halo, and like all that I guess I ask for in a Halo game is like, clean up the graphics, obviously, but we basically want the same thing. We don't want a lot of changes, and it seems like they make a lot of changes and then they start taking those changes away, and then everybody's happy when it's back to where it was, you know. But you can't hate on anybody for trying to bring changes and make it, because in their opinion, they're not doing that to hurt the game. They want to make it better. You know, they're not. Nobody would intentionally hurt the game, but you know, I guess we're just a lot of Halo players just really old school, and we know what we want, and yeah, I just with this whole Halo 2 thing going on right now in Halo Infinite. You know, we're playing on the Halo 2 maps with like Halo 2 guns. It's so much fun, man. It's like I was, 12 years old sitting in my buddy's basement with all my friends. I mean, dude, it's so much fun. I haven't played Halo in a long time because I don't really enjoy playing older games. I wait for the next thing to come out. But I'm having so much fun with it right now.
For a little bit of background, CC will play a game for like 2 hours and 10 minutes just outside of the return policy, and then he'll never touch the game again.
Listen, Jeff, there's a lot of narratives about me, and they're all wrong. Okay? They're all wrong. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy.
What was the last game you tried to return? You couldn't?
Space Marines 2.
Space Marines 2.
Yeah.
What was the game you did return and then you got it gifted to you again?
Helldivers 2. Yeah.
What was the other game that you returned?
I don't know. Harry Potter.
What was another game you tried to return? We can keep going with this, Jeff. Like it is. There is a thing.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
It's a tricky situation, and I think they've struggled with that, and they've tried to make it. It was interesting because I see Jen on a fairly regular basis.
Mm-hmm. And that's the voice for Cortana. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I've directed her a number of times on stage, and we're pals. And I never really had much of a sense of story of what she and Steve were doing.
Well, yeah, because you're the multiplayer side, they're the story side, yeah. So it's completely different ball game, yeah.
Totally. And I think they would have been happy if their stories had ended after 3, what Jen said, because she felt that after the sacrifice that Cortana made, it was kind of like she didn't want to come back.
Whoa! Spoilers!
Oh yeah, it's a little late for that. No, I completely agree. Honestly, in my opinion. In my opinion, after Halo 3, the story should have been done, but just keep releasing multiplayer. That's what everybody plays through the campaign one time anyway, once or twice anyway.
Okay, but Halo 2 I played through like 12 times.
Release the multiplayer, for half the price, and then just like they do with Halo Infinite, the multiplayer's free. It's free, and then you can buy new skins and stuff if you want to. So you can give money to the game if you want to.
Think about it in this respect as well. I mean, it's not like they couldn't come up with other stories from the Halo universe.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, we've seen, it's been so interesting watching, Lucasfilm and Disney see what they can do with the whole Star Wars universe. Some of the ones you go, ooh, that's really impressive. And some of them like, what on earth are they, what? It's just, but again, nobody is doing it because they hate Star Wars and they're going.
Oh yeah. Obviously, they're passionate. They're passionate about it, and they want to make. Have you seen the Halo series?
The Halo series, yeah, the show, or even the movies that were like on Netflix, like Forward Unto Dawn and stuff.
I did not see Forward Unto Dawn. I asked Steve about that. I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, that was a film that was put out some years ago." And it's like, "Oh, okay, I'll have to watch that." And I haven't yet.
You see Master Chief for like 10 seconds at the very end.
That's why he wasn't that interested in that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, I did see both seasons of that. I had a very interesting perspective because while it was being shot, they shot it, in Europe, one of the Middle European. I keep wanting to say Budapest or someplace. It's like that. And Jen was over there. It was during the pandemic, so it's kind of like they kept her there for weeks at a time. Because she did the acting and the motion capture as well as the voice for Cortana in the TV series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why. No wonder she sounded like.
That's awesome.
On. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then in the second season, they kind of hardly had her at all, which I thought was a bad idea.
Yeah.
My takeaway from the first season was that. She was the best thing in the show, and the most human thing.
Yeah.
Everybody else was like so kind of like they were all kind of like so grim and
You know what? Honestly, I completely agree with that. I think I think
100%.
a lot of people focused on Master Chief being out of the suit and stuff, which was a big deal. I mean, I thought it was just I thought it was stupid in my opinion.
I mean, seeing his face like in the very first episode, and then in the second season, like having a whole fight out of the suit. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
This is
It's not Halo to me, but I still enjoy it.
You know why? You know why it's not Halo? It's because when you're playing the game, the fact that you don't see anybody's face, a character face, makes it so much easier for you to become Master Chief and play that role.
Yeah,
I never even thought of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
Seriously?
I never thought of that. No.
He's so important. You know what I mean? It's the same
because
experience.
you become him. Yeah.
You become in the same way that you become Indiana Jones or anybody else in a movie. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's Harrison Ford, but you can project yourself on him and you follow his story. But it's even better when you don't see the face. But and it's weird because Pablo Schreiber is a fantastic actor. He's really very nice.
Yeah, I thought the choice of the actor when I read about it before it came out, I thought I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. But I thought his voice was good in the helmet and stuff.
And he had good acting, so I mean,
I thought I was very 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 happy with it.
It's interesting because the first season you could tell they were trying to figure out what they were going to do and how far they were going to stray from the story, and the introduction of all the new characters I think was hard for fans because it's like they had no connection with them. Who are these people?
Yeah,
and why are they taking valuable screen time from the characters we do know and care about?
Yeah,
you know, that's what we're going to see. And I don't think the Arbiter is in that series, right? He is.
What's really dumb about another terrible thing they did in the series?
They ruined the Arbiter.
They killed him. They killed the Arbiter.
Almost instantly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It's like, why did they do that?
Anyway,
there were a lot of things like that. You know, obviously, again, it's sort of like marking your territory, trying to sort of make this something unique. And it's like, well, okay, but, you know, that can be a little bit tricky. And it was interesting to see the tonal shift between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
Too young to remember the original Battlestar Galactica, but it was a little bit like the original Star Trek. Really was clean, no matter what they were going through. It's like, no bruises, no blood, no, you know, dirt on their uniforms. It all had a sort of antiseptic look. I thought the first season of Halo was like that. Then, just like the Battlestar Galactica reboot, where suddenly they were, you know, looking to Alien and not some of these other things.
Yeah.
Suddenly it was like gritty and, you know, oily and dirty and, you know, sweaty. And I thought, what? That seems to make more sense for Halo.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I like the look of it.
Yeah, I really like when I watched something like that, you know, like it was a big deal that he removed his helmet. But I just kind of like I shut all that stuff off when I'm watching that. Like I just try to enjoy it for what it is. Just like a lot of people had a problem with like episode 1 and 2 and 3 of Star Wars. You know, when they came out, you know, when they rebooted that, you know, I loved them. I loved
one of them.
You had a problem with it?
Yeah, but I'll tell you why. It's the same thing that you were saying. It's like, you got to understand. I first saw a preview for Star Wars 6 months before it hit a movie theater. And it was like, what the hell is this?
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, there was nothing else that looked anything like this. It was like, what? And what is that hairy, big, tall creature going?
Dr. Zeus.
Like, no idea.
Rude.
So then 6 months later, it's the opening day. And I go out, I'm in Minneapolis for some reason, I can't remember why. And I go to St. Louis Park, which has a huge theater. I'm sitting there with about 8 other people because nobody knows what Star Wars is.
Wow.
And the first show, the first day, I am blown away. I mean, the back of my head just,
of course,
blown away. Incredible. It's never going to be that way again. After that weekend, you couldn't get close to it.
Right.
So those first, and it was really only the first 2 films. It's like something about that third film. It's like Godfather 1 and 2, magic. 3. Oi, why?
Not a
did
Return of the
they
Jedi fan, right?
Not really. There were some
Yeah.
great action
Oh,
sequences.
for sure, yeah.
But you know, I wouldn't have been sorry to see a bunch of predator creatures eat the little teddy bears. Just hated them. It was like, what is this? And it's like because you're sitting there going, "They're only doing this, so they can market these things to kids."
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So
yeah, I just like I said, I try to I'll watch something new or I'll play something new, and I try to just like separate it, and it's like I'm gonna try to enjoy this for what it is and not what I wanted it to be, and that's something it's hard to do. Yeah,
actually,
it's
God
hard.
damn it! I want it exactly the way I want it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I rarely get my way, but
and it's hard because then it's sometimes it's hard to enjoy something because you
Well, I
want
mean,
it a
it links
certain
to
way.
like your childhood and a lot of
Right.
your memories. So I mean,
No,
you
I
get
mean,
something
I
that's
agree.
like
I agree. Like I
you
said,
grew
it's
up
just-
on, and then they completely change. It's like changing
It's-
your life story.
Yeah, it's hard.
the other thing that changed is that the influence of video games on the Star Wars prequels was enormous. You may not be aware of this. If you go back and see, if you could see the original 4, 5, and 6, middle ones and this notion that it was always going to be 9 films, he's since acknowledged that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And it's kind of apparent. When he went back for that, suddenly the stuff was going so fast you couldn't, at least I could not watch it easily. It was moving too fast. There was too much action. It was like boom, 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 boom. It's like we're suddenly going at the speed of a video game,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that was not the kind of experience I was used to having in a movie theater. It's the same thing when I saw Gladiator, and it was that handheld camera, just like where's the nearest popcorn bucket so I can expel. It's just so I think that was also part of the problem. It's like in a weird way, as the effects got better and better and better, and they could do anything, in some ways that became a problem, for me with some of the films because you think it's like they they can solve any of their mistakes or their issues.
Yeah, just cover it up. Yeah.
Reshoot. I mean, it's like the Marvel films now. It's kind of like the story makes no sense. It's like, well, because they completely changed the story for this or that reason. They put something together, and it's like, yeah, but what?
They just got to make it work, right?
I mean, were you surprised when they were bringing back Robert Downey Jr. into the Marvel universe?
I mean, it's weird because we may never know the real story about why that happened, or
money.
I mean, he got a lot of money, but he doesn't need money. He doesn't unless he wants to be a big time entrepreneur and fund. And I know he's got a lot of projects and things that he is behind, which is cool. And but I think that there is something to be said for the arc of that. Considering he was the first Marvel hero, and then closed it out. The whole thing closed out with what happened to him.
Yep.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
I'll just walk away.
Anybody who's been, not doing that for a couple of years, like watching movies, it was brilliant. It was genius. It was so incredible, and it left them in a hole, obviously, because it's like, oh, now where do we go? And they kind of threw a lot of things at the wall, and some of them were like, oh, that's pretty good, and others were like, what?
Yep.
It's just been so interesting to watch them doing it. I think Robert Downey Jr. is so admirable and talented and fascinating. His own personal story is such an amazing. It'll make a great movie someday.
Yeah, it will. For sure.
Inspirational for sure.
Very much so, and it's interesting. It is interesting. He's won his Academy Award, so maybe he feels like he can help out people he obviously adores, by doing this. But I do sort of, and it may also be a case of, this is speculation completely. Listen to us talking Marvel.
That's right.
But you look at what happened with Jonathan Majors where it looked like we're making a huge investment in an actor that most people knew very little about. You might have seen him in Lovecraft. Was it Lovecraft Country? Was that his series? I think it was. He'd only done a couple of things that I was aware of. And then suddenly he was going to be in everything. And, and then that didn't work out, for various reasons. And I think, well, they're turning to something that's going to be more reliable.
My thoughts with it are, I would guess they were probably trying to get him to come back as Iron Man at least one more time. And he said, I'll come back as a bad guy. The only thing I can think of.
Or
maybe he wants to be a bad guy.
They're going to use Doctor Doom to kind of bring him back into Iron Man role, and they're going to swap the bodies again, like they do in the comics. Who knows?
It could. There's tons of ways to speculate.
I will say that he did, kind of like going back to your point there, Jeff, where you were talking about maybe he's trying to help, other people, kind of the way he got helped. There was the story that Tom Holland spoke about where, Robert Downey Jr., when he first went on set with him, they kind of cut some of Tom's lines, and Robert Downey Jr. stood up and was like, "Hey, bring this kid in, give him some more lines, let him do it." And now, he's the Spider-Man
he is Spider-Man now.
He's not the OG, like everybody obviously knows Tobey Maguire, but I think Tom Holland plays an amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I agree.
The amazing Spider-Man, but
he is Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man in my eyes.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we're talking about. It's like, so where do you go? You've had this incredible success. And of course, this notion that it was always going to be the Infinity Saga, clearly that isn't true, because if Iron Man had tanked, or if a couple of the films had really been stinkers, and it would have all been done, I suppose. And the fact that they were able to, by some magic, the right combination of performers, collaborators, filmmakers, Kevin Feige, all those folks, the fact that each movie seemed to be at least as good, if not better, than the one that came before it. And then they sort of all intertwine, and that became interesting. And, before you knew it, it was this unbelievable tapestry of interconnected stories.
And they couldn't miss with anything, It was perfect.
It was wild. It was really, really wild.
Now, if they
had gone out of order, like if they had just done those things differently, like if they'd done Captain America first, I don't think it would have been as good.
No, I don't think
I do think that you needed Robert Downey Jr. because I don't think he's ever failed at any movie he's ever been in, even the ones that could be considered bad. If you think of
in
them,
all the amazing actors, nobody is Tony Stark. Right? Nobody could pull off Tony Stark like him, right? I mean,
Elon Musk, because he is like the real world Tony Stark.
He's the real life Tony Stark. I mean, he's the real life Tony Stark, but I don't think he can play him in a movie, okay? Because
he is Rocket Man, all right?
He's very awkward.
They have been so canny in their casting most of the time. It's like, well, I mean, and then when it got to the point where anybody would do, when Robert Redford showed up, in was it the Winter Soldier? Which one was he in? Winter Soldier. American Winter Soldier. It was just like, Robert Redford? Dear God. It's like, they can do whatever they want.
So
that's awesome.
They're saying that there's possibly going to be another, like, somebody's trying to take over Halo and possibly do a Halo movie.
Yeah.
Which, well, they don't know if it'll be a TV series or a movie.
There was some
there's
big directors that
were
trying to get it from Paramount. And to wrap up the series with a big movie, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no. They weren't trying to wrap up the series. They were trying to take the IP themselves and start over, like, stick to the lore of Halo.
Dude, years ago, there was, I was just out of high school. There was a trailer that showed up. They had like the spike grenades, and it's like a 5 minute
and it never
trailer.
came about.
Was the most amazing video I've ever seen in my life to this day. It was all Halo, all perfect, and it never got made. I don't know what that came from, but it was amazing.
I will say that a lot of the newer TV shows and everything have a really hard decision to make of whether you go and you do something totally new, like what Halo did, or if you do by the storyline, which is what The Last of Us did. And you get these like two incredibly different types of storytelling, because you are in one of them as a director telling a story that's never been written. And as another one, you're a director trying to direct someone else's vision as your own. And it works for some. Like you said, it worked well for Halo. It didn't work well for some other things. It worked amazing for, The Last of Us.
The Last of Us, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of other things that have done that type of thing. Resident Evil was one that they only wanted to be slightly linked to, but they didn't want the audience to know how it ended. I can tell you right now what happens in The Last of Us Season 2 in the first couple of episodes, because I played the game.
Right.
I can tell you exactly what happens. I can tell you how the story ends. There's nothing new to it. Now, am I still going to watch it? Absolutely. It is an amazing cast. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I didn't like the second game, but the movie, I think, the TV show just did such an amazing thing with it. And
here's the thing: is I wonder whether or not was the first season the first game.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for some reason, I thought I read somewhere that the second season of the show was going to veer away from the second game because there had been so much controversy about that second game.
So the second game, within the first few hours of playing, spoiler for those that haven't played a game that's been out for 10 years.
Yeah, you're safe.
There's a love interest involved, and this love interest literally takes a golf club to the main character from the first game and kills him.
Oh, I guess I don't have to waste my time with that series.
There you go. It's done. Joel's dead. It happens. But it is... There were all of these things. It was the huge meme at the time was The Last of Us 2 became Golf Simulator 12. It is... It was horrible. And the thing is that we all felt so cheated out of it. We didn't mind that the game was going to be through Ellie's eyes, but to kill off the main character that has sacrificed and done so much to keep her safe.
Yeah.
It just left a horrible taste. After about another 2 hours of playing it, I just stopped. I never finished the game.
And it's about the characters. Here's the deal. I mean, I think that this is so hysterical when you think about the way we do this kind of entertainment in this country. Mm-hmm. If you've been if you follow British series, TV series and stuff, things like Prime Suspect with Helen Mirren or, Barbara Coltrane and Cracker and stuff, what they would basically do is they would do a season. And if the story was done, the series was done. They weren't, it wasn't like it was a huge hit, so we had to keep it going. The Office, as we all know in its original incarnation with Ricky Gervais, was 2 series and a Christmas special. That was it. Mm-hmm. And then it went on for like 50 years and seasons in, the United States because they weren't going to let it die. And, it veered so, there was like hyper familiarity as well as then they were like going all over the map. And, it's just one of those things. We just can't let things live the appropriate amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? It could very well be that one game, maybe all the games there should be, but if it's making millions and millions of dollars, there are going to be more games.
Damn right.
And that's a mistake that we often,
like Fast and the Furious. Yeah,
Game of
way
Thrones
too many movies.
So do you play any video games, Jeff? Now?
Not anymore. No, I'm too old. I'm too old, and there's too little time, and I've got too many books I want to read. I'm absolutely demented. I read like 8 books simultaneously.
What's your favorite
there's
author?
There's actually a game right now that you might enjoy. Then it is called 400. It's called The Longest Game or Longer. The game takes 400 days, like real world days, to complete because there's a timer that's going. But hold on, if you read the books that are in the game, it will tick off time. But they are full novels in the book with like 30,000 pages that you can read.
It would take a special person to do that.
Yes, absolutely. I just saw someone speed run it. It took them like 43 hours.
I have so many books that I am, desperate to read. In answer to your question about who my favorite author is, I don't have a favorite author. I have so many authors that I love.
Do you have like a genre then that you like?
No, it's a little bit wider than that. I will say that I have moved somewhat in recent years from fiction to nonfiction. Because there are certain things that are interesting to me. I'm very concerned about climate change. I'm a parent. I've got 2 middle-aged kids. We'll be here dealing with whatever, the world is like when I leave it. And it concerns me. So it's like I want to, get as much information, get as educated as I can and try and figure out, is there anything I can do individually to help? That's one
or
of the
even
things.
pass on the information even, yeah.
whatever it is. It's just, you
Mhm.
know, but I've got to feel like I can't, you know, so sometimes I find I used to like read mysteries, just anything. I've got a couple of friends who are a couple, and they're always reading mysteries, and they just plow through, and they read like 12 times more mysteries than I do. And I got to the point where I thought I'd start one, and I go, I can't read this. Can't read it. There's not enough time left. I haven't read all these books by Dickens, and I've never read any. I haven't read all of Jane Austen's work. You know, I read in Pride and Prejudice, and it was fantastic. It's like I haven't read Sense and Sensibility or Emma or What Am I Doing? You know, so I go crazy
Yeah.
with that. I haven't read Turgenev. I haven't read enough. I haven't read Anna Karenina. You know, I haven't read
My
enough
girlfriend's
Melville
going
and
through
Hawthorne.
my girlfriend's going through something like that right now also. So
Um,
she was raised in a pretty conservative household where once you reach a certain age, her mom's like, those books are too young for you. You're not allowed to read those. So she wasn't allowed to finish The Babysitter's Club. She wasn't allowed to finish Series of Unfortunate Events or what
really?
is yeah.
crazy.
And so now
That's
we're
crazy.
going to like dollar bookstores and we went to like Goodwill.
Mhm.
And so we're buying these things now. Like, I mean, you can't really see it, but right behind the chair behind me, there's a bunch of like small books. I started recollecting the little golden books that I had when I was a child. So I have
I
like
hear
the
you.
monster
Yeah.
at the end of this book and the little engine that could, or the pokey
Yeah.
little puppy. And these things bring me joy. I mean, I know these guys are going to make fun of me forever for it, and I'm fine with it.
Oh no, you know what it is? I think everybody.
We
it's
got
like-
plenty to make fun of you about, buddy. Don't worry. There's
Damn.
plenty. There's plenty, man. There's plenty.
I mean, it's just it's one of the reasons why, you know. Same thing with movies. I was sitting around one night 2 weeks ago, and there's some movie where Kate Beckinsale plays an assassin who gets targeted, and it's like, gosh, haven't we seen this 12 times before? And
Right?
hyper violent and noisy. And I was like 10 minutes in, and I went, I can't watch this. So I turned it off, and I belong to the Criterion Channel, which collects some of the greatest movies ever shown. There was one that had shown up. It was being presented at Film Forum in New York, which is a movie theater that does great films, foreign films, independent films, just everything, called The Burmese Harp. And it was made in the 1950s. And it is an astonishingly good film. And I watched that instead, and it's like, I'm so glad I did this. And then I was watching, because like anybody, I go down the YouTube rabbit hole, a
Mhm.
documentary about Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
And, you know, it's very easy to dismiss him until you start to see all the movies he's made and you think, dear God, what other filmmaker has made the range of movies
I'm a
he's
huge Clint Eastwood fan. I love Clint
Oh, yeah.
Eastwood.
unbelievable. And I've never seen Sully. I've never seen
I have.
the one Richard Jewell. I've never seen Invictus. I haven't seen Outlaw Josie Wales or Pale Rider.
I've seen like all of them. My dad was a truck driver when I was growing up, so I
Yeah.
used to ride in his semi, and he had all like all those movies in
Wow.
his cab
On
So I would
VHS and the plastic boxes for him.
Yeah, yep.
My mom was more John Wayne, but I still like some of the classic Clint
I
Eastwood
love-
for sure.
Well,
You know, I'm 30. I'm going to be 38 years old next week, and like ever since I
what the hell?
ever since I
Jeff
hit,
understands. Jeff understands. All right.
when
he's
I
on
when
our
I
side. Got it.
when I started hitting my late 30s, like it's been like American history, like big time American history, like documentaries. Pretty much any documentary, like on Netflix, all that. Like that's all I watch for TV anymore. It's crazy.
That's
Like
cool.
I don't watch like movies as much as I used to. I don't watch TV shows as much. But it's like documentaries is where it's at. That's like it already knows, so I just watch them. So yeah, it's great.
Isn't that what they say, that as soon as you hit your 40s, you either get really good at a certain part of history or really good at smoking meats? It's like one or the other, and that's it.
I'm both. I got the smoker outside. You know that, Zeus. Like
I do.
I smoke the meats. I watch the documentaries. I do it all.
At the
man.
same time, he's got
yeah.
his little tablet out there watching it while he smokes meats.
He's got the iPhone on the smoker, dude. You know, you got to get it figured out. Yeah. So, I mean, we're well over recording time. If there's anything else you want to talk about, Jeff, we can.
Yeah, Jeff, do you have any
I'll sit here and
projects
listen to
or-
you all night, dude. I mean, give us some Halo lines, man. Like, let's hear it. Let's hear them.
Okay. I know that you normally do this on your Cameo and everything else, but can you say like "Welcome to the Unqualified Gamers" for us?
Yeah.
Or
unqualified.
I gotta
gamers
get close. It's
podcast.
hard without the microphone. I get a lot of value out of that. Welcome to the Unqualified Gamers podcast.
Look at that.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Yes,
That's
dude.
awesome.
Yeah. Is there? I mean, if there's any questions you guys have for him, I mean.
Well, do you want to list? You want to put your Cameo and stuff? Well, we're gonna put it in the description, but do you want to let people know like where to find you, how to get cameos and all that?
You betcha. One place you can find me is I'm trying to get off social media to a very large extent for a lot of reasons. Most of it is just this last
People suck.
No, they don't. It's just I think that something happens to people when they can kind of veil themselves in,
No, I agree.
anonymity, and there's just an awful lot. Here's the thing: we went to our show in Columbus. We met a lot of people. I didn't know anybody's political affiliation. I just knew that they were really nice people and really interesting people. And they loved the game that I worked on. And if you talk, they'd bring it. There was one guy brought a little baby, and I just about, made a complete fool of myself going, well, how are you? How are you, little baby? You got a picture of me. It's like, and I think that I'm so tired of divisiveness. It seems to me everybody fundamentally is looking for, certainly the 99% of us are looking for the same thing. Is like, we want someplace live that's safe. We want to feel like we can feed ourselves and our families. We want to be able to, go on a vacation. We want to have a job that we don't despise. We want to find someone to love, and we want to, enjoy our lives as much as we can. Stuff like that. I think we're so much more alike. We are not alike, and I think that it serves many other corporate interests to get us at each other's throats. And I'm
Completely
done
agree.
with it. So, if you would like to be in touch with me in what I'd like to think is a safe space, you can find me on my website, www.jeffsteitzervoiceactor.com. And I'm doing blogs. A lot of people are ask me things like, well, how do you get into voiceover? I address that. I've got like 6 or 7 out of what will either be 8 or 9 blogs that sort of talks about various aspects of getting into voice acting. People are interested.
That'd be great. Yeah.
As well as I tell stories, about things, how I got into theater and all kinds of stuff, which is loads of fun. And then also there are links in there to the Cameo site where you can hire me to do a personalized video for just about any occasion. That's www.cameo.com/Jeff Steitzer, I think.
Those things will be in the description of the video, so everybody can click on them.
Then there's a link in there to my official online store, which you were talking about with all the different posters that I will sign.
There's 2 that I'm looking at, and I don't know which one I want yet. I'm gonna decide which one I want.
I say just choose both.
Los dos.
There's 2 on there with the kill streaks, and I love the kill streaks.
Talking about. So I have to say, not to prejudice you at all, I think the kill streaks with Master Chief in it is pretty cool.
That's probably the one I'm gonna get.
If you get both those things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can get a Master Chief poster, which is very, very cool. It's really dramatic and exciting. Or you can get the kill streaks all by themselves, or you can get one that has both, and it's kind of like, well. Plus, of course, you can send in your own stuff.
Yeah, I saw that too.
A helmet or a game or whatever. I'll sign that too.
Yeah, I may. I 3D print stuff like crazy. I have a bunch of Halo Master Chief figures and stuff I printed. I may send a helmet to you to sign yet too. I don't know. We'll see.
I would be happy to do it. I had a very good time when we went to Columbus because I've been holding on to something. I picked it up the year before in Cleveland. Steve was not there. What it was, somebody had done a thing. It was on a 3D printer. It was a Buddha in the typical sitting position that the Buddha is often seen. But instead of the Buddha head, it was the Master Chief's head.
Yeah.
And I picked it up meaning to give it to him. I forgot it when we saw each other in March here in Puyallup. I carted the damn thing all the way to Columbus and handed it to him. And I'm hoping to see it in the background of some video he does, because he's got a wall of all of his,
Okay.
stuff that he has, which is fairly hysterical. But he seemed to. He got a
You
kick
liked
out
it?
of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, CC was supposed to be at Torg, but he backed out like a week before.
But stuff happens.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
we've been doing this. This
Yeah,
is
you
our
missed out.
93rd episode of the podcast, I believe.
Wow.
We release a new episode every week, every Monday, and we've I started a new job this year, and it's really hard for me to get away from work. So we're gonna start
These are
doing
just excuses now.
We're gonna start doing more conventions and stuff like that. And I can't wait to run into you in person someday and shake your hand and get a picture with you. That's gonna happen.
Great to see all of you.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Absolutely going to. Yeah. There's no way we're not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find one that you come to, and I'm gonna absolutely go. I don't care if I have to drag my wife, and she is not a fan of video games. I'm like, listen, babe, you don't understand. You're going.
Well, do you want to take it away, Zeus, and maybe Jeff can say something to say goodbye to the millions and millions of Halo fans that have loved his voice for all these years?
Yeah, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today on the 93rd episode of the Unqualified Gamers podcast. You guys can catch this on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcast, basically anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us. Again, Jeff, thank you so much for being here today. Go ahead and send us out.
Yes, I want to urge everyone to go out and, even though this is not my line, I love saying it, finish the fight.
Love it.